Hi, I'm Jan Ozer. I'm joined today by Heath Hoglund, president of VIA Licensing Alliance, or VIA-LA, which is a newly created entity from the combination of VIA Licensing and mpeg-la. Thanks for joining me, Heath.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. Well, glad to be here.
My pleasure. Can you give us an overview of what you, VIA, and mpeg-la just announced?
Yeah, sure. We just announced what we're calling a united entity. Technically, in the technical sense, via licensing acquired mpeg-la as a subsidiary, and but we, sort of feel like it's more of a merger because, for among other reasons, some of the owners, GE, Philips, and Mitsubishi in particular, are rolling over their ownership interest from mpeg-la to also become owners of VIA. So going forward, we'll have four sets of owners. We'll have a board of directors that consists of a representative from GE, Pat Padnode, who heads their licensing program, Jaco Elvid, who's heads Philips licensing, IP licensing, and Keiko from Mitsubishi, who heads their patent pool programs. So, in addition to Andy Sherman, who's the general counsel at Dolby, and will be and myself will be the new board.
Okay, and just to close the loop, VIA was a wholly owned subsidiary of Dolby?
Right, exactly. So VIA was a wholly owned subsidiary of Dolby, and from the inception, because of the way that because of the business that we're in, it was structured as an independent subsidiary, and so we've always had a separate independent board and separate management, but technically a subsidiary of Dolby.
Okay. Now, for our listeners, most of them are going to know this, but what are the major video pools or video codec pools in the mpeg-la portfolio?
Yeah, so mpeg-la, got its start with the MPEG-2 video
Hmm.
program. That's a technology that's, now out of patent, but it was really the first, large scale, very successful patent pool for any codec technology. And so they, early on built a reputation in the video codec space. They next started the AVC patent pool, and that's another one that's been, enormously successful for the market. It's just extraordinary. I think it's the most widely adopted patent pool of all times. There's upward, nearly 2,000 licensees or something like that, and a collection of 40 or something like that licensors. So just a hugely successful patent pool program. They have also run, as you mentioned, VC1, which was Microsoft's alternative to AVC. They ran a pool for that, and again, another successful pool. And more recently, they were the first ones to launch an HEVC program that ultimately, wasn't the one-stop shop solution that their previous
Mhm.
video codec pools were, but they continue to have, a successful program in that for that technology.
Okay, and also there's, I guess, the VVC pool as well.
Sure, and we have more recently launched the VVC pool. Just to be direct on that one, that one's been that's early in the market, both in terms of market adoption and in terms of the direction that companies take in terms of aligning with a particular pool or deciding what their path will be, whether it be bilateral licensing or a pool or whatever they might decide. So that's yeah, that one still seems like it's early in the game of settling the market for that technology.
Okay, and what pools does VIA have that you were hoping to achieve synergy with by merging the two entities?
Yeah, sure. So, a couple things there. One is that we have a program, an AAC patent pool, which is a super widely
Mm.
adopted MPEG technology. It is a little bit different than on the video side because that pool has sort of evolved over time as the original AAC technology was standardized in the late 90s, and so the early basic codec and now is off patent, but the standard itself has evolved over time to include a bunch of important follow-on technologies, including stuff that allows for better compression efficiency, stuff that allows for live communication, more recently stuff that allows transition between different old school, psychoacoustic audio coding and
Mm.
speech coding. So there's been migrate over time development, and what's happened for the AAC program is we've added those future AAC flavors into the pool. And so it's a program that's continued to evolve and include some of the more recent technologies were added, even in the last, 5 years or something like that. So there's been a different evolution on the audio side than on the video side. In addition to the AAC program, we have an mpeg program, which is basically 3D audio, and it's one where we feel really good about that program. It's attracted most of the licensors or most of the patents in the space, and has attracted some important licensees. Sony and Samsung have already joined as licensees, and they're two of the biggest implementers of the technology. So we feel good about that program. We like to continue to see market adoption of 3D audio. I think that we're optimistic about that. If you haven't experienced it, it's pretty cool. So we're hoping that the market sees that the same promise in that technology.
So I guess the thought is that the companies who were licensing H.264 and HEVC were also licensing the audio codecs and
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. There's same, the 100%. It's the licensees are the same. Anything that's got I can say it this way, anything that's got an AVC uh, decoder in it, it's got an AAC decoder in it too, and the same is likely true for HEVC. So there's definitely a ton of overlap there. There's not many devices that just play video without any audio.
I get that. So how does that simplify licensing going forward? Is it the same account manager from your side handling both, or
Yeah, sure. That's one of the, is there some, of course, yeah. So short answer is yes. Those kind of things, yes. There's a bunch of things that it does for us. That's one of the, scale is always, businesses always look for, gaining scale,
Hmm.
and so it obviously makes it easier for if you're, whatever manufacturer in whatever jurisdiction, it makes it easier if you're preparing the audit, the royalty report for ABC, and you needed to do it for AAC as well. It's sure nice if they're both in the same system and you can do it at the same time. So that's something that I think will make our licensing, for the licensee experience easier. On the licensor experience, we have similar kind of thing. We organize licensor meetings from time to time, and I think it'll make it, for a lot of reasons, I think it makes it easier for everybody if there's some commonality. It's the same kind of thing of having scale and the benefit of efficiency for a little bit larger organization.
okay? What's this mean for the licensors in the mpeg-la's H.264, HEVC, and VVC pools?
No, no change. Well, the one, I guess a few things, in a certain way, it doesn't change anything because, we'll continue to support those programs, and so there's, in that sense, there's nothing that changes. Um, but we certainly are, I think there's a renewed, I can say this, earlier today, did our first all hands meeting and with the combined teams, and there's some excitement. There's some excitement in the room. There's a lot of people feel good about the combination. I think there's a good fit of the two cultures and in terms of the companies, and I think we'll have a little bit more energy going forward I think for both of us, both for VIA and for the mpeg folks. I think there's going to be a little bit more energy, and so I'd look to for us to continue to grow those programs, and yeah, hope to head in that direction.
Does this type of event have give the patent owners any ability to get out of the pool or to change the terms, or do they just come with it?
Uh, no, it doesn't. So we have, so it's a sort of, it's a good question. So, in the technical legal sense, as I mentioned at the beginning, mpeg-la is, still exists as a legal entity. It is now a wholly owned subsidiary of VIA Licensing, sorry, of Licensing Alliance. I have to keep things straight myself. And but it continues to exist as a legal entity and act, to be, transparent about it. The reason is just that we don't want to go change the thousands of license agreements that are in place to a new administrator. I think people would be okay with it, but it's just the just the paperwork that associated with that. We don't need to do it. So mpeg-la continues to exist and as a legal entity, and those agreements stay in place that way.
Okay. I've read that Access Advance is owned in part by General Electric, Philips, Dolby, and Mitsubishi, who are now the same owners of VLA. So, I mean, you both have HEVC and VVC pools. This raises the question, do we see any kind of merger of the pools going forward, or even a merger of the pools into do we see the HEVC pools merging and the VVC pools merging, or even all four merging, or do we see them operating separately going forward?
So, a couple things to say about that. One is that, yeah, the ownership groups are still distinct because MediaTek is also an owner of the Access Advanced program. So there's one unique owner between the two companies. But at a high level, just a step back, the three GE, Philips, and Mitsubishi were in fact owners of mpeg-la, and so they were owners of that company when they chose to launch Access Advance. So there's some market conditions that drove two different pool offerings,
Hmm.
and there were common owners between mpeg-la and Access Advance, and there now are common owners between Access Advance and VLA. So I don't think the ownership change itself changes the outcome, but we certainly are going to. And another thing I just say is that sometimes the market, one pool, obviously we'd like to see one pool solution. Sometimes, to me, that's the best outcome overall. But at one point in time, we saw three pools forming for HEVC. That, would have been a possible market outcome. We are now, migrated to two pools. That's obviously better than three or better than none at all. So just to say it this way, I don't have any plan to see that outcome, the merger of the two existing HEVC programs. It seems like the market has kind of spoken in the direction of having those two programs. They've coexisted now for, Jan, you might know this better, but probably a decade. They've probably existed, like coexisted. I'm not sure exactly the timing, but it has to be something like that. So that's what, is what it is, to say it that way.
What's the yeah, HEVC was 2013. What is why were two pools formed if there was so much common ownership? What was the thought? What's the benefit of having two when, everybody, I guess, would agree that one is better?
Yeah, the one I think there was at the time when they formed, I think there was a disconnect about the licensors and the licensees didn't fully align on what the program terms looked like, and so we did see a separate pool form for some of the licensors, and that drove that outcome. I think, yeah, and for better or for worse, that's what happened. And so in a certain way, just to be, kind of just to do the arithmetic, what happened, the rates ended up being not so far apart. I mean, the Access Advance rates, I think, are higher, but they're not dramatically different. But what effectively happened is that having the two programs obviously increases the royalty stack because you need a license for both programs. So in a certain way, that's what happened in the market, and that's how it played out.
Okay, I mean, the two HEVC pools are, I think Access Advance is a bigger pool, but mpeg-la has substantial IP in their pool. It's a little bit different with VVC. I know we're early days in VVC, and most patent owners are still not in either pool. But what do you see happening with VVC going forward? I know it's, as you talked about, the market hasn't really fully developed yet, but what potentially could happen there?
Yeah, we'll support, so we'll be supportive of wherever the market goes. We certainly support a one pool outcome. We like to see that result. I'm not sure yet that, speaking frankly, I'm not sure if Access Advance has, critical, mass or sufficient momentum to drive to a one pool solution. If we thought that was the case, we'd step out of the game. If the markets wants us to participate in an alternative solution, we'll look at it, and if we think there's a path for us to lead to a one pool or to a again a two pool solution that's healthy for the market, we'll look at it. We certainly would prefer to get to one, and but to say we certainly will, if it looks like that's the right path, we'd throw our support behind another pool. We did that for our wireless programs. We decided to step out. We supported Sysfel and felt like that was the best solution for the market. So we're open to doing that. We want to do the right thing, and but that don't for personally, I don't feel like there's I don't personally feel like I know the answer to that just yet.
Okay. It's also pretty late in the day. So speaking of late, I'm not sure how many people are still with us, but I just wanted to express not only to you, but also to the people of mpeg-la, just that, how big a deal they have been, Larry Horn in particular, to streaming video in general. I mean, MPEG-2, as you said, was fundamental. The Department of Justice letter is, ground zero for video codec formation or video pool codec development. And, what they did in the market, what they did with H.264 was probably, as you said, the best pool ever. I mean, it is great for the patent owners, great for the implementers, great for the publishers, and wonderful for the video, consumers who watch YouTube and Netflix and all video on the web that's still primarily in H.264. So, shout out to those guys for the contributions they made. Great, license portfolio you're picking up, great employees you're picking up, and VIA has a bunch of the same. So good luck going forward, and congrats on the merger,
Thanks
or
a lot.
whatever it is.
Yeah. We think of it as a merger because we same thing. We couldn't say enough. Yeah, couldn't echo what you said enough. Larry's been a real icon, and he's been fantastic. He's stayed on as an advisor, and I appreciate his advice, and I also enjoy talking with him. So it's a fun thing, and I felt like we had a really strong team at VIA before this, and getting to know in the process of getting to know the mpeg-la folks a little bit better, and super impressed by them, and I think it's going to be good for everybody, good for the industry, good for the combined organization. So we're excited for it.
Great way to leave it. Listen, thanks for your time today. I know it's been a busy time for you.
My pleasure. Thanks.